judges are nodding. Even the Egyptian judge is impressed.
Until recently, you claimed that the Earth revolved around the sun.
Howdy, partners, and welcome to History Bites. I'm Rick Green. When I was a kid, television was 5 channels, all featuring shoot-'em-up westerns. American lawmen battled outlaws, romanced women, and upheld justice. Good guys wore white hats, bad guys black. But in the real Old West, you couldn't always judge a man by the color of his headgear. In the real West, shootouts on Main Street were incredibly rare. Many cowboys didn't just wear black, they were black. And the crime rate wasn't much higher than it is today. That's why we need novelists, movies, and television to rewrite the truth. Now, if journalists had been there to cover one of the most celebrated events in Western mythos, the gunfight at the OK Corral, maybe it wouldn't be so celebrated. First off, reporters would have called it what it was, the gunfight at Fly's Photographic studio.
Good evening. I'm Ted Koppel, and this is Nightline. Tonight, the shootout in front of Fly's Photographic studio. The corpses are not even cold, but already there are some who are pointing a finger at the media. Is the media responsible for portraying these killers as heroes and glamorizing their deadly gunplay that lit up the streets? We'll recreate the shootout in all its thundering, blazing drama and let you decide. As silvery revolvers and blue steel pistols bark their fiery justice, good guys and bad guys see who's the quickest and deadliest on the draw where only the strong.
And welcome to 2020. Tonight, a special report on a town in trouble.
Tombstone, Arizona.
It was just another silver boom town until the day this boom town turned into a bang town. Were the cops out of control? Was this war enforcement or murder?
In Tombstone, Arizona.
In a small town crying out for safer streets, this bout of police violence has some crying foul play. It happened here, in front of Fly's Photographic studio.
In Tombstone, Arizona.
5 cowboys parked their horses at the nearby OK Corral, only to be KO'd by a barrage of bullets. This frantic 911 call paints a gruesome picture of the shooting. Normally, a call like this one would have police rushing to the scene, but Tombstone's cops were already there, blasting away.
I saw Mr. Marshall and his brothers and Doc Holliday walking up to the cowboys, and they says, "You're under arrest." And then it was bang, bang, cardiac arrest. You're dead.
Look at this ugly mug. Jesse James, wanted in Missouri and Minnesota for several counts of murder and armed robbery. James is considered armed and dangerous, so if you see this bad guy, don't approach him. Just shoot him in the back, and that $10,000 reward is yours. Remember, on America's Most Wanted, justice is only a gunshot away.
Townsfolk say there was a history of bad blood between the cowboys, known as the Quantons, and local marshal Virgil Earp. Earp came to Tombstone 2 years ago with his brothers, and they quickly established themselves as prominent citizens. But there was a dark side to the Earp gang. Wyatt Earp, former horse thief, a one-time cop in Dodge City with a history of violent behavior. Wyatt's friend, Doc Holliday, alcoholic, killer, and dentist. It wasn't long before the Earp gang ran up against local cowboy cattle rustlers, the Quantons. It was their mutual hatred that has many Tombstonians wondering if the Quanton-Earp shootout was an act of justice or simply cold-blooded revenge.
You see, on the day of the shooting, I told Virgil Earp to leave the clans alone, but he was looking for a fight. That's why I had the cowboys disarmed.
Why would you say that? They shot back. Clearly, they were armed.
Well, as far as I knew, they weren't armed. Well, Virgil Earp had already taken Ike Clanton's guns away, and the other cowboys either told me they were unarmed or said they were just leaving town.
In Tombstone, Arizona.
The cowboys were not looking for a fight that day.
But the Earps would.
Oh yeah, I knew there'd be trouble if the Earps tried to take the guns away from the other cowboys. They've both been in scrapes before, and I knew there'd be trouble. Yeah, but you see, I'm sheriff of this town. When there's trouble, I'm there.
When the shooting started, what did you do?
I ran into Fly's photographic studio.
After the Civil War, America was in a period of upheaval. Some folks headed west in search of freedom and maybe fortune. Someone would yell, "Gold!" and overnight towns like Tombstone sprung up. Silver and gold brought incredible wealth to a few and big problems for everyone. Eastern law and order clashed with Western frontier justice.
On the day of the gunfight, Wyatt Earp was made a deputy by his brother, Marshal Virgil Earp. Wyatt's version of the shooting is decidedly different from that of witnesses.
We were going to arrest the cowboys, and things just got a little out of hand.
Arrest them on what charge?
Well, it's against the law to wear guns in Tombstone, and they had guns.
But that's just a misdemeanor. It's not punishable by death like armed robbery or horse stealing.
Well, now, when you tell someone to put their hands up and they go for their guns, you've only got a split second to shoot them.
Witnesses say one of the cowboys was on his horse, that he was gunned down with his hands in the air.
Sure, his hands were in the air, but his horse had his hooves on the ground.
Have you been mining all day and you have silver to spend? Are you long on cash and short on love? At Miss Kitty's Saloon and Brothel, meet dream girls, one-on-one, for 5 minutes. They're wet, wild, and waiting for you! Miss Kitty's Saloon and Brothel, liquor in the front, poker in the rear!
When the smoke cleared, 3 cowboys were dead. Ike Clanton was one of the 2 who survived. Ike claims he was unarmed at the time of the shooting, that the only reason he's alive today is because he ran away.
Word around town was that them and Doc Holliday were involved in a stagecoach robbery a few months ago. And Wyatt Earp was running for sheriff. He needed to look good.
Desperate to improve their public image, the Earps approached Ike Clanton with an offer. The Clantons would stage a stagecoach robbery, then let the Earps through it. The cowboys would be allowed to escape and the stagecoach cargo would be saved. It was a good plan, but Ike Clanton wasn't buying.
They offered us $2,000 for the job.
So Wyatt Earp, the man running for sheriff, tried to stage a robbery?
Yep.
But you didn't do it.
No way.
Why not?
'Cause you can't trust the Earps. They would have just shown up and shot us. Besides, it just wasn't right. I mean, why would we risk our lives faking a robbery for $2 grand? We could have done the real thing and made 20.
Getting one up by those crazy Keystone cops. Number 7, persistent burning itch and trigger finger. Number 6, having to draw chalk outlines of those cowboys and their damn hats. Pretty hard to draw a straight chalk outline on that desert sand, isn't it, Paul? And number 5, limited number of deputy jobs to give brothers. Number 4, never get to catch tasty outlaws like the Hamburglar and Frito Bandito. Number 3, hauling in drunks then scrubbing vomit off backside of police horses. Number 2, saddle sores and strip searches. And the number 1 complaint of the Tombstone cops, over 40 miles of territory and not a single donut shop. There you go.
Yeah, Americans should have better gun control. For starters, learn to hold them with 2 hands. Don't pull the trigger, squeeze. Keep your aim. Try for a body shot. The killing zones are here, here, and here.
President Lincoln shot and killed. This year, President Garfield shot and killed. It's happened before, and mark my words, it'll happen again. I think it's high time that we started arming our presidents.
From my cold dead hand! From my cold dead hand!
Well, it was his idea. Oops, his hand ain't cold yet.
One problem with upholding the law in the Old West was finding people to do it. To take on tough-as-leather outlaws, a marshal or deputy had to be tougher. So some cops were little more than violent thugs, often with a criminal past of their own. Out on the frontier, once a man had a badge, he could basically act as judge, jury, and executioner. So the Earp brothers may have decided to dispense justice at Fly's photographic shop, rather than tie up the court system.
One of the most troubling aspects of the shootout was Marshal Earp's choice of deputies. Not only his two brothers, but Wyatt's friend, Doc Holliday. Doc was a dentist who'd fill your teeth full of gold and your body full of lead.
Well, there's a good reason my brother deputized us. He needed people he could trust, and blood is thicker than water. Watch. See?
But what about your friends, Doc Holliday? Doc's got a criminal record for murder. Didn't that bother you?
Not really. We need a guy who knows how the criminal mind works.
What about the fact that Doc's the town drunk? Dentist and town drunk.
Yeah, well, holding down two jobs is a challenge. And Doc was working overtime on the drinking thing, so we were a little concerned. I mean, he was wasted. I didn't think his aim be any good, which is why we gave him the shotgun.
How was Wild Bill Hickok killed by Jack McCall? Was he poisoned, stabbed, trampled by wild horses, or shot? That's a tough one, isn't it?
I'm gonna go with being shot, Regis.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Sure, he was shot in the head while playing poker.
All right!
Craig is 11, and he writes, I work all day picking tobacco, and I only make 25 cents a day.
Oh, that's not much.
Oh, no, it sure isn't. How do I ask my boss for a raise? Well, now, Craig, that is a good question. After all, this is America. We all want to make more money, don't we, Squeaky?
Oh, you bet, Johnny.
You bet we do. Now, the problem is there's a lot of other kids with no job, and they'd be more than happy to have yours. So if you ask your boss for a raise, well, he might hire one of them instead.
Oh, Johnny, if I asked for a raise, you wouldn't fire me and hire another mouse, would you?
Oh, Squeaky, oh, don't be silly. Of course I would.
What?
Rheumatism, backache, or torpid liver syndrome.
Oh, Cindy, my liver's never felt so torpid.
Well, if you suffer from some of these things or other things like cold hands, bad blood, colic afflictions, bilious afflictions, or cold feet, then you need to try Dr. Wilson's electric belt for ladies.
Sounds scientific.
It can be, but actually, it's just a vibrating girdle.
Well, sounds exciting.
It is.
I'll just go down to the docks and I'll go and find an immigrant mouse who will.
Hey.
Sure, I bet you Fievel would use 10 cents a week. He'd be happy for it.
Oh, okay, I'll work for half as much.
Okay.
Boy, I really hate those immigrants.
Oh, we all do, Squeaky. We all do.
Let me just turn that on.
Oh, oh, you know, Cindy, I'm feeling this girdle at work right now, and I'll tell you, it feels good.
That's right. No electric shocks with Dr. Wilson.
No.
Turn that up a notch.
Oh no, just pleasant, agreeable sensation.
That's right. Now, folks, remember to stay tuned because coming up next, we have a new invention which does away with old newspapers, magazines, and linens.
That's called toilet paper.
That's right.
Or shot?
I heard about this. It was in the news.
I guess you've probably killed a few people in your day, huh, Pete?
Oh, yeah, I guess you could say that, Regis.
All right, then tell me, Pete, when you killed people, how did you do it?
You know, I've always been meaning to get creative, but I just always seem to shoot them.
I guess there's just never enough hours in the day, huh? Now, how about that question, Pete?
Well, you know, Regis, I'm going to say that Pat Garrett shot Billy the Kid.
Final answer?
Final answer.
He shot him, all right.
All right! Yeehaw! Yeehaw!
about our lighting technician, Simon? Is this show exciting or what?
Prejudice, racism, the struggle of the black man. It's no laughing matter. Until now!
Howdy ho, honkies!
Willie White is blackface in the all-new minstrel show. I've seen a lot of performing Negroes, but no one plays a black man better than Willie White. And Siskel and Ebert give it 2 guns up, way up. The all-new minstrel show, it's back in black.
Has the West gotten too wild? I mean, do we need to get tough with the outlaws like the cops in Tombstone?
Yes!
Hell, I don't think the West has gone wild enough. Oh, listen, you got all these people coming out here to seek their fortune, and when they can't, what do? They turn to crime.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're robbing stagecoaches, robbing banks, stealing cattle.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, there's only so many stagecoaches to go around, and a lot of criminals aren't getting their fair share.
That's true.
And I think this territory should try and attract more victims of crime.
All right, Pete, for $5,000, here we go. How was Julius Caesar killed by Brutus? Was he...
He was shot! He was shot!
Well, as usual, Pete, there's 4 options. Was he suffocated, stabbed, trampled by wild raccoons?
Shot! Shot! Shot!
Or was he shot?
Shot!
Now remember, you've still got 1 lifeline left. You could still hold a librarian at gunpoint.
I think it's horrible. Half these deputies are scum.
Oh, they are.
And you know, they deputize the very fellows who hate the people they're supposed to be arresting.
No, you gotta be tough. If you're too nice to these cowboys, you just end up wearing your heart in your sleeve.
Yeah. And your brains on your pants.
Men's brains are in their pants.
Julius Caesar was shot, you're right.
Next question.
All right, how was Joan of Arc?
At the time of the gunfight at the OK Corral in 1881, the American Wild West was already passing into legend and being spun into myth. The Great Plains were being fenced off, the railroads were bridging the country from coast to coast to coast, and Americans were trading in their trusty horses for a new ride. Giddy up!
Howdy, we're back. And we're talking about transportation. And this new European import is the hottest thing on 2 wheels. I say run, don't walk to get one of these babies. And after that, don't run or walk, just cycle.
Now, I know a lot of people are trying to make the big decision about whether to buy another horse or a horseless bicycle. And it's a tough call, especially with the difference in price.
Well, Jim, it's true that a beautiful, well-bred, and healthy horse can set you back $25, whereas a bicycle is more like $150. So it costs more up front. But you gotta look at the TCO, total cost of ownership. I mean, think about fuel costs for horses. The price of hay and oats is going through the roof lately.
Plus horseshoes, of course.
Absolutely. How many people do you know whose horses seem to spend half their time in the blacksmith shop or the vet's office?
Now, Jen, was it hard to ride one of those things?
It's just like riding a horse, Jim. Once you learn, you never forget. Like riding a horse, except you have to pedal the stirrups. Cops in Tombstone didn't know whose story to believe, the cops or the Quantons. After the shootout, Marshal Earp, his brothers, and Doc Holliday were charged with murder and brought before Judge Wells Spicer. There, this dramatic amateur video of the shootout was brought to light. It shows Wyatt Earp, Virgil Earp, and Doc Holliday brutally emptying their revolvers into Billy Quanton. As evidence, it seems damning, but it wasn't enough for the judge. He acquitted the Earp gang, ruling that as deputies they acted within the law. Marshal Virgil Earp was stripped of his badge, but he and his brothers were free to go. This is police brutality.
No, it's not. When you watch this tape, it's completely misleading. I mean, where's us shooting Frank McLaury? Where's us shooting Tom McLaury? Plus, all that gun smoke makes it very hard to see.
After being acquitted of murder charges, the Earps found they were no longer welcome here.
In Tombstone, Arizona.
2020 obtained this copy of a death list, drawn up by Tombstone's cowboys and miners. Then, a bloody act of revenge. Virgil Earp was shot in the street, causing him to lose the use of his arm. Then Morgan Earp was shot in the back, causing him to lose the use of his wife.
I just couldn't believe what was happening. I mean, we thought we were acting in the best interest of the law.
But at the time, you were the law, acting in your own interests.
Maybe so. But as deputies, we were within the law when we shot those cowboys. The court proved that. But that's not good enough for people. So they go after me and my family doing ride-by shootings. Now my brother Morgan's dead. This gang is taking the law into their own hands. There's no excuse for that.
What's next for Wyatt Earp?
I'm a lawman. I've got a sworn duty to uphold. I'll have to kill those sons of bitches, then flee the state.
Wyatt Earp went gunning for his brother's killers, and after he and Doc Holliday shot a couple of them, the former lawmen became outlaws themselves and had to escape from Arizona. Wyatt wound up in California, where he tried to sell his life story. It was finally published in 1931, 2 years after he had died. The book brought the Wyatt Earp story to the world, and Hollywood made him a star. Still, the question remains, were the Earps brave men who cleaned up Tombstone, or just trigger-happy rent-a-cops? The shootout at the OK Corral has been so romanticized by Hollywood, it's hard to tell fact from fiction. Because very often, Hollywood drama is great, but usually, history bites. Ma'am?
And if there ain't nothing wrong with a little cow rustling, nope, nothing wrong. Everybody does it. It's like jaywalking, ain't no harm in it.
Killing people.
No, they're not killing people. They're killing Mexicans. No, ain't the same thing at all.
No, you know, nobody should be killing anybody. I mean,
That's right.
the Civil War proved that, right? I mean, how is America gonna grow and expand if we just don't all work together and wipe out the Indians?
Come on. The Indians went out with the buffalo. I mean, the big problem now is the Chinese.
Oh, yeah.